When those blue words a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away hit the screen, we were transported to a universe of noble Jedi, evil Sith Lords, and the story of a father and son. That was Star Wars before Rogue One. Now, with the conclusion of Andor Season 2, we're looking back on what Star Wars was when everything was stripped away and built around the Empire and the Rebellion without Jedi or Sith, but with spies, espionage, and the brilliant story of Cassian Andor. All this and more on this episode of Three Dimensional Dads.
Three friends, all geeks, exploring every dimension of being a dad.
I'm Jay.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Ian.
Andor.
Yeah.
Andor. Can I just first say that I'm wearing a Baby Yoda t-shirt. If you see this. Because that was, and you got Star Wars on. We're all doing Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
And I think
yeah.
I think it's safe to say that all the Star Wars we had before Andor was more focused on the Jedi than anything else. The Jedi and the Sith and the dichotomy of the Skywalkers, right?
Good, evil. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Andor was the first piece of Star Wars, or actually Rogue One really, was the first piece of Star Wars that stripped all of that away and was like, okay, forget about Luke Skywalker, forget about Darth Vader, even though he was in Rogue One a little bit. But this is what Star Wars really is. It's about government. It's about spying. It's about freedom. And I don't even know if Lucas really intended that when he created it, because he was doing this mythology. But the government intrigue and the spying of Andor is just, that's what makes this, I think, one of the best pieces of Star Wars in all of Star Wars.
It was definitely made for grown-up fans.
Yes.
Like, I kind of realized that, Lucas often says that Star Wars was made for kids.
Mm-hmm.
But Empire Strikes Back was not.
Oh.
Empire Strikes Back is way more grown-up and adult and heavier.
Sure.
It's a menace. I mean, I think the same kind of odd balance in Phantom Menace, where, like, it's about trade blockades, and it's about the Galactic Senate.
And tariffs.
Jokes. Right, yeah, and tariffs. But then there's like Jar Jar and poop jokes, and it's like there's been this thing where is it for kids, is it for adults, and they try to have both. They try to do both at the same time, so that doesn't always work. Where Andor, I felt like, is one where this one was for the dads.
It's mixed.
This is not.
I actually think Andor is beyond that. I think Andor is for people that also aren't really into Star Wars. I really think it opens up the audience to what this could be to a greater, mature audience. It has a lot of, call it law and order to it, right? It has a lot of drama to it, and action in a way that I feel like you're stripping out the fantastical, you're stripping out the unrealism of the Star Wars world, and you're making it about people, and you're making it about government, and you're making it about espionage. And I think that's what connected to a more mature audience. I mean, you heard it talked about on like morning talk shows, like, have you seen Andor, right? I mean, to people that just, it's beyond lightsabers. So I think that's really fascinating. Let's
take that premise, right? All the other Star Wars properties, Mandalorian, great show. So was Boba Fett for the most part. Okay. We got away from the Jedi there, right? We're talking that wasn't about government necessarily, but more along the lines of like kind of a Western. Okay. Then you have Obi-Wan. Now that one worked because of Ewan McGregor. I think that was the specific that he was what made Obi-Wan work. Ahsoka too, very good. Rosario Dawson made that work. But again, that's back to the Skywalker saga. Bad Batch and Tales, the animation, the Japanese animation stuff that they did, pretty good. Not really necessarily about the Skywalker stuff, but it was different. Acolyte, very mixed. Andor, I think, is the most different of everything like this. And I think, Derek, you're exactly right. It took all the stuff out of Star Wars that kind of made it into this fantasy thing. And like, if you took the story of Andor and put it on Earth, it would totally make sense too.
Yes.
Revolutionary War. I mean, I thought, it reminded me a lot. There was some show a while back that I can't remember now, but wasn't that, there have been some of these like prestige TV shows that it's about rebellion and it's about these characters. And you could change the situation and it'd be, same kind of show.
I don't know if any of you watched the episode recaps, but the Gorman Massacre was basically based upon the French Revolution.
Yeah.
That they clearly, and you could tell, right? They actually had the actors speak a dialect of French. They made up the language of the Gormans in relation to French, and it totally paralleled like kind of like the French Revolution against like the oligarchy, right? And that was amazing in itself.
I'm glad they didn't break out into "Do you hear the people sing?" though. I think that would have.
They did.
Do you hear the
courtyard?
They did.
It felt like that, yeah.
I know. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. Okay, we're going to do like old school, like good. Give us one good thing, then we're going to do a round of bad things, and then what I call a standout moment, something that says to someone like, "Oh, I'm not into Star Wars. I don't want this." I'm like, "Well, when you see this moment, bang." You're in, okay? I will start. What I loved is the dueling kind of stories of kind of that intrigue between the rebellion and the ISB, right? Both organizations were having their own kind of internal struggles, and I thought that parallel was really cool. So it's the same story, in my opinion, but with two similar arcs, but from two angles. The rebellion, more straightforward. What do we want to do? We want to destroy the Empire. We want to get these systems free. But I think besides Andor, one of my favorite things was Deidre and her role as that ISB officer who isn't rebelling, but she's being duplicitous. She wants to be she wants to kind of, I don't know if it was a like gender thing with like a woman in a man's world thing, but she was really fighting against an uphill battle trying to get, higher up in the ISB. But when she's outplayed by all these other things, she starts getting reckless, and that led to her arrest at the end. By the way, spoilers all over the place. If you haven't seen the whole thing by now, then God be with you.
Deep cuts. Make sure you watch it.
Yeah, but I think that parallel story was genius. That was mine.
I liked how much the rebellion struggled.
Yeah,
that Andor shows up and doesn't even know if these people were fighting the same war. We're on the same side. That was great.
I was really confused by the beginning with that. I totally didn't really understand what was going on. That's actually kind of like something in my criticisms of it. But yeah, Jay, you're totally right. Actually, the actress that plays Deidre was like amazing. And in an interview, I heard that she actually studied female psychopaths and female like criminals. And what they will do is they will get people to do their bad stuff for them, and that's Cyril. And I think like the way like it's so amazing after the first season they develop a relationship.
Well, seeing their evolution, I thought was one of the high. Yeah, that was so great.
Well, and the fact that like both his mother and Deidre just these strong women that just beat him down, and like the mother and Deidre battle to see who can beat him down the worst. Oh my man, did I identify with that?
Yeah. For me, I think, and this is the first time where I think I've had or watched one of these Disney Star Wars properties and had a lot to say. I think that hands down, this is some of the best world building and storytelling, let alone the fact that they had to introduce all these new characters, especially for the compressed time frame they did this in, right? Where they did these 3-episode chunks and this 3-episode release schedule. I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah.
For just the world building and the story building they had to do. The parallels to real life and how grounded it felt in like it's a true universe that you could go to was amazing to me. There was not a lot of over-the-top CGI. There was not a lot of over-the-top green screening. Everything felt like it was the real world, but in a galaxy far, far away that you could go to. And another thing that I really like that I don't think we really have seen in the Star Wars universe that kind of paralleled our own was the news.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen, right, where you had these cameras and these reportings. You never knew how things got around to the Senate or even in the galaxy, right? The fact that there is just like a regular news broadcast that it can be showing the Imperial dirty work, right, to a big audience across the galaxy was very interesting. And it would be, I don't know if there was more of a story that they wanted to tell there, right, with kind of trying to shut off the cameras to like what's going on, or did it expose the Empire or not. But I thought there was something very new for Star Wars that I really enjoyed that was exploited through the series.
Media,
yeah,
and the spin that was really
well. Lucas has always compared Star Wars with kind of Nazi Germany, and what was one of Nazi Germany's first moves to control the people was controlling the press.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. Ian, what about you?
Sure. So some of my favorite things with Andor is, yes, it's the storytelling. And for me, I thought it was about the characters and their motivations.
Yeah.
Is that the wants and the drive behind each of these. We have people on the good side and the bad side, but what they want and what they're trying to accomplish was very clear. And I think we all know, I mean, coming from Rogue One, we all know that the great Death Star plans, and that's where Rogue One's headed. So, like, the big story that they're telling, we already know. But the day-to-day drama and the ins and outs of these characters, I thought was just so great. You don't need to have those giant... The galaxy doesn't always have to be, the big story that's going on. I think that was awesome. Actors, again, Luthen was, I think, one of my MVPs as far as an actor was Denise Go. Such a great performance. I love, he's such a prestige-level actor. Just he could say anything, and it sounds just amazing. He gives that gravitas, and I thought the casting in this, you had some of these actors that felt prestige level actors.
Yeah,
these were just some people that just gave so much grounding. Mon Mothma, I mean, the grounding that they gave to these roles was just
you
good.
Truly believed them.
Yeah,
right.
Truly believed. them.
Yeah, you felt the pressure that they were feeling too, right? Especially like Mon Mothma and like all the little political things that were going behind the curtain, like, oh, is my driver listening to everything that I'm saying, right? And all of these little things that were happening, right? Yeah.
I also thought, I really enjoyed that this was one of the least commercial Star Wars movies. It's like, there's not going to be, this summer lunch boxes with like K2SO or like Andor. There's no Baby Yoda. There's nothing to sell. I think that was kind of interesting when, Star Wars so often is action figures and lightsabers and toys.
Right.
And so that was kind of, cool with this one. That, I don't think anything's flying off the shelf this holiday season for Andor season 2. And I thought, too, the time jumps. Like, this is something British TV does, but they essentially made 4 Lord of the Rings movies, where it's like, they're 3 hours each. That's a lot of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Part of one of my critiques is, on a Tuesday night, it's time for bed. It's 9 p.m. on the East Coast. Oh, man, I can't not watch it. It's going to be all over the internet the next day.
Yeah.
But it's like they made 4 Lord of the Rings movies all at once, and I just thought that was awesome. Because in between, they did a year jump in between each week of shows to watch. And you could see the outcomes. You could see what they were working on, what they were going towards, and then see the evolution of the story. I love that. I thought that was so good to have time jumps, and British TV does that really well, where they jump in between their seasons. And I thought that was awesome. Super cool.
So, Ian, if you see the look on my face, because this is a video podcast, I'm going to be smiling now because we're talking about the good thing. And now we're going to be talking about the bad things. We're going to be talking about things that maybe didn't jive with us so well. So hit me with the bad stuff, and we'll see how close we get.
So I had one that I had read in a review before it came out, like an early thing, that I just kind of agreed with the whole time I watched it. I don't think season 2 ever hit the heights of season 1 for me. It's like, I think my mind was really rocked by Andy Serkis and that jail escape story and that whole sequence. I mean, I loved that story and thought that was so unique and cool. And like, this one got intense, and I love the Senate escape when, he's helping Mon Mothma get off of Coruscant. I thought that was great too, but I don't know if it ever got quite to Andy Serkis moment. And, he can't swim, and that, like, he was so good. I don't know if it ever hit that. And my second one was, where are these Gorman spiders? We saw like a video clip of them. I just assumed we were going to get these spiders at some other point. We were going to see them somewhere, or, they sold little spider toys. But I thought we were going to get some cool spiders going on, and we did not get any.
Well, I mean, you might not have seen those spiders you wanted to see. I wanted to see the Emperor. That's my bad thing. I wanted to see the Emperor. The reason being is that who's in charge of this entire galaxy? It's the Emperor, right? And you think about these dictators and authoritarians and these despots, right? What's the biggest thing about them is that their cult of personality. They have to be in the zeitgeist, right? And the Emperor all over, and including the sequel trilogy, which we could talk another 4 hours about, Palpatine has always been this omnipresent. The Emperor has always been there. This season, really, I feel, could have had the Emperor directly relating to the things that the rebellion's doing, right? Not necessarily behind closed doors, him saying anything, but like Derek was saying about the news, right? Like you could have had him on the news trying to explain away all these things happening, right? I also wanted to see, and this is a little bit of a kind of personal thing. I loved when in A New Hope they talked about disbanding the Imperial Senate, right? So like the fall of democracy. As an adult, that's such a cool thing to think about in this universe. Mm-hmm. I wish the only like the cameo of him would have been a news video of him disbanding the Senate and basically saying, you know what, it's over, no more Senate, no more fake democracy, I'm in charge. I would have liked to see that.
I kind of disagree with you a little bit, Jay. I think though that the disbanding of the Senate would have been very cool.
Yeah.
I think you could have done that even with just Imperial forces,
especially after Mon Mothma mic drops.
And I don't think you even needed the Emperor to do that. See, I feel that Andor really stayed true to itself because it didn't dive into the Jedi fantasy world. And I think if you had the appearance of the Emperor, it'd be like you'd be going back to cartoon Jedi Star Wars, right? That fantasy for kids. And Andor has always been this more serious kind of like adult drama. So I like that it stayed true to itself. I do understand where that moment of disbanding the Senate would have been very cool. And I think like how they did the Gorman massacre, I bet you could have done that in a way. And that goes to one of my criticisms, and I don't have a lot. If anything, I'm nitpicking on this show, right, is that I felt that the timeline running up to Rogue One was very rushed. Like the last 3 episodes, I feel like you could have put a lot more in the context of that story. I just feel like when Luthen gets the information about the Death Star, it's just kind of like a little birdie told me. And I feel like you could have extended that story out a little bit more. You could have shown some of Jyn Erso and the scientist and the energy project that the Emperor had. What would happen, right, if you saw like the scientists that were working on it and all of a sudden like, oh, this isn't for making energy, this is for making a giant weapon. And then getting the pilot to like, we need to get word out about this and the intrigue of that and the political moves. I really feel that if you gave this another season or some of those episodes a little bit more breathing room, and I know they were trying to squeeze this all into one season, that you could have really like even expanded upon that creation of the Death Star and why it was so important that the rebels, right, formed against this.
To have
a little more Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I definitely, I was thinking Oppenheimer the whole time.
If you go the parallel, right, Galen Erso, the scientist who created the Death Star, he is Oppenheimer. And
exactly.
In Rogue One, we see the fact that he knows that this is bad news bears. He knows that this thing shouldn't be created. So he does, playing in that little widget, a big giant space station can be, you throw a little proton torpedo down a tube and it blows up. I mean, office of disbelief. But I mean, that's the thing. He put that in there because he knows the difference between good and evil. And that's why we see him in Rogue One take that role and his daughter kind of taking on that role for him.
Yeah. The other criticism I have is there are a couple plot points that I felt were just like left on the table or they didn't do a lot with, like Saw Gerrera. I didn't understand what he was doing with the other rebel and what they were trying to show on the planet, but then also his rebellious group, right? That didn't seem like they did a lot in this series at all. And that was kind of just like they played such an integral part in Rogue One. It's interesting that the only connection they had was they were on Jeddah when the Imperials were taking kyber crystals out. Yeah. So to me, that was kind of just like, you could have done more with Saw there, I think. The other thing, I didn't understand the purpose of stealing the ship other than you made Andor go to Yavin early on to see how broke up everybody was. But what was the reason you stole the ship, right? I would have liked to connect
blend
those
in somewhere,
things,
do something. Yeah, I thought there was a mission leading somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so those are my those are my kind of like my little like kind of like things that I was just
Well, shows shouldn't give you homework, right? Shows should not give you homework. Right. And like to find out more about Saw Gerrera, you'd have to go watch Star Wars Rebels. right?
Yeah.
And the Clone Wars. So it's like you shouldn't have to have homework, but I really would have liked, because it's almost like what I took that as, and we'll get to kind of our standouts in a second, but that Saw Gerrera group, I think that was like, if you look at like extremist groups or rebellious groups, right? Like, and I don't want to like make this too real worldy, but like, if the rebellion's kind of like we're gonna retake, we're gonna use subterfuge, we're gonna use insurgency, like Saw Gerrera's like, that's too slow. I'm taking these guys and we're gonna start hitting everything we can and blowing stuff up. They're like the extremists, right?
Right.
But I would have liked to see that play out a little bit more.
Right.
And it was ripe for so many good standout moments with Saw Gerrera, because he was such a powerful entity in Rogue One, but there was tons of standout moments in this. Derek, what was your, like, give me your one, if you had to sell someone on this show, what would you do?
I mean, the episodes and just the world creating they did for the Gorham massacre.
Yep.
I was glued to the TV that whole episode, and just how tragic they made that was just unbelievable to me. I really just felt for all the characters and what they were trying to do in that moment. It was unbelievable. To me, that was the pinnacle of the show. That was the Andy Serkis moment, really, for me in this series, was the Gorham massacre. And you see the droids that come out. That's another thing, right? I mean, you didn't realize how powerful those things were.
Yeah.
Until you saw this, like, them throwing people around, right? And, them setting this whole thing up to try to flush out, the rebels on this was just unbelievable, right? And how they also tried to twist it in the Senate, saying that these people are, attacking our Imperial soldiers and things, I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, in the Star Wars world, droids are always weak. They're like, no, the Wookiees rip your arms off. Right. Droids don't do that. But if you have a K2SO droid, those ones would rip you.
the other standout moment I have for this had to be Elizabeth Dula is Keela. Oh my God. Like, her story arc in this, what a badass. I mean, as badass as Princess Leia, in my opinion, like, just unbelievable. Like, just how she kind of was like this unbelievable person that had to confront, the person that destroyed her family and team up with them. And yet she hates Luthen, and she both loves him and loathes him at the same time. That she follows in his footsteps, but also has to do the right thing for the rebellion in the end. I just thought all the scenes with her, whether she's just taking out the transmitter or, she had to do what had to be done at the end, were just
I loved her breaking into the hospital. I thought that was a
so sequence.
Seeing how she blends in and sneaks, and like how much of a spy she is. That she puts on the nurse's outfit and she like blends in, but then she shoots guys. That was so
takes
good.
The old lady in the chair. Like trying to get in.
So James Bond.
It wasn't that particular actress, but when they were flashing back to Luthen and her as a child and the bombing on Naboo, and Luthen's just like, don't look.
Yep.
Don't look. And like, it's Naboo, it looks like Naboo, and you can kind of feel that, you can feel that tension because, was it 20 years ago? There was a war on that planet with the Trade Federation, the Jedi were there, and like, that history, that Naboo has seen some stuff. And so Naboo is again seeing some stuff. I thought that was great. What about you, Ian? What about you?
Mike's standout moment is when Mon Mothma finally gets her bob haircut. Her hair is long this whole show, and I'm like, come on, we know Star Wars, she has the bob. We're waiting for it. And then I got that moment. I was glad. It was like the last second she came out. She's like, Yavin 4 also has a beauty salon. And she got like a nice short. You're not Yavin. You gotta have it short, so not
droids with flobies.
Exactly. I also thought the Force healer was a moment that I love them making the Force and Jedis are on Yavin. But it's our old hermits. It's this wacky religion that's, and I like that pivot where instead of all the lightsabers, and even in Rogue One, we get like the hallway scene with Vader. That's like the best thing ever. But people don't expect it. And Jedi have suddenly become a myth. I wonder that with he was on, how is Andor on Coruscant as much as he is? But like the Jedi Temple was there 15 years ago,
something like that,
20 years ago, but then doesn't believe a Jedi healer.
Yeah, I mean, some inconsistencies, but my standout moment also had to do with Mon Mothma. I appreciate your love of her haircut. I think that's fabulous. But
all style.
I'm gonna go back a little bit in that sequence of episodes, and I'm gonna go.
And her acting was good, Jay.
Thank you,
acting with the bob.
Genevieve O'Reilly I don't want to say on the floor of the Senate because she's floating in a little pod, right? But when she gives that speech where she basically says, I am putting the crosshairs on myself to bring to light that the fact that this is no longer a republic, it is an empire, it is ruled by one, the Senate doesn't mean anything. You have Bail Organa's there. I think I didn't really recognize him, but that was
looked a little different.
Yeah, Jimmy Smits went bye and Benjamin Bratt took over, but I think that speech, and yes, I wanted the Emperor to do something too, but that one speech puts the rest of the OG trilogy in context. Everything she says there is like, okay, now we know why people are going to join this rebellion. I think, again, it's such a great show. I do want to wrap up, and I want to wrap up with, okay, now that we have this amazing show, what can Disney learn from not only Andor, but from the varied responses of all these shows, right? And my advice to Disney, I mean, we love to give our advice to these people who make millions of dollars, right? Jedi and Sith are not the only horse in the race. The storytelling of Andor really proves that you can have success without, black and white, good versus evil. You can have waters that are muddy, and you can lean into that, right? And I think you can also probably lean into that with Jedi and Sith stories. You don't have to just focus on the mysticism of it. You can have the Jedi, and I think Acolyte tried to do this, but it failed. You can have the Jedi and Sith in an environment where there's political intrigue and the puppetry of using the Jedi and stuff like that. I hope that's what we're going to see in the Old Republic a little bit. Derek.
Storytelling. I think storytelling really makes a huge difference. I think there's something for everyone in the Star Wars universe. To me, I made a parallel to this, and I was thinking about this. This felt like the realism of Christopher Nolan's Batman, but in Star Wars with the sense of realism. And I think there's an audience for that. I don't think it just needs to be about magic and, just fantasy. I think you could have these mature shows for an audience.
Yes, and that's my point too. I completely agree that I feel like Disney can have these mature shows that are for the dads and they're for the older people here. The people that connected with the Senate storyline in Phantom Menace, or the darkness of Empire Strikes Back. And I think that Marvel's doing this right now with Deadpool and Punisher and Daredevil. We get these kind of more grown-up stories. Because when they're shooting straight down the middle and it's supposed to appeal to everybody of all ages, I feel like you lose some of the storytelling power that you can have.
Well, I mean, just again, to close, such a great show. It's one of those shows that I think I need to rewatch from season 1 so I can understand it a little bit better. So why don't we end right there? I'm going to go back and I'm going to start season 1 over again. So until then, we'll see you next time.
Wow, just wow. All of us really loved Andor and what it brought to the Star Wars universe. Spying, subterfuge, double and triple crosses, and sassy reprogrammed Imperial droids that gave us new lens in that galaxy far, far away.
What did you think of Andor? We want to hear your thoughts. So connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search 3-Dimensional Dads.
It's that time of year. It's time for our annual summer movie preview. That's what's up next. We got some big thoughts about the comic book movie juggernauts, Superman and Fantastic Four. What will DC and Marvel look like this summer? What about any other movies that are coming out? How will they compete? All this and more on the next episode of 3-Dimensional Dads.
Balancing fatherhood and fandom.